Welcome to the Deep Dive, your shortcut to being truly well informed. Today, we're navigating into, well, an area you might not expect, the global steering compasses market. Now, I know what you might be thinking, maybe old brass relics, but no, we're talking about a really rapidly evolving sector. It covers everything traditional magnetic gyro compasses, sure, but also cutting edge digital and even satellite based steering. So, okay, let's unpack this a bit. What is it about these instruments that makes them so vital? And why is this market not just, surviving, but actually thriving and constantly innovating? That's our mission today, to really dig into their critical role in maritime and aviation navigation and figure out what's driving this growth.
Yeah, it really boils down to precision, doesn't it? These systems are just fundamental for accurate directional control.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if it's a huge commercial freighter, a sophisticated military ship, or, even a smaller plane. The basic need for incredibly reliable navigation, that stays constant, even with all the new tech. And that unwavering need is exactly what's driving this significant demand and all the innovation we're seeing.
That's the core of it, isn't it? Reliability. And when we talk demand, we're actually talking about, well, remarkable growth, a really impressive market expansion. So we're going to dive into those global trends, see which regions are really leading the charge, and really understand why this critical, often sort of unseen industry is surging forward. Okay, let's set the scene first. The big picture. Some might think steering compasses, maybe a bit old-fashioned. But listen to this. The market was valued at a pretty robust $1.27 billion back in 2021.
That's already substantial.
Right. And projected to hit $1.56 billion by 2025, just next year. But here's where it gets really interesting. By 2033, it's expected to grow significantly, maybe soaring to nearly $2.35 billion.
Wow.
That's some serious expansion for, what many might see as just foundational tech.
It is serious expansion. And that growth isn't accidental. We're looking at a compound annual growth rate, a CAGR, of over 5.2% just from 2025 to 2033. And this upward trend, it's directly linked to, well, two big things. One is the rapid technological advancements in the navigation systems themselves. And the other is just the ever-increasing volume of global marine trade. Simple as that sometimes.
Makes sense.
Think about it. The demand isn't just for any old compass anymore. People need high-precision, super durable, smart systems.
Yeah.
Ones that integrate easily with modern digital platforms, satellite signals, all that.
So, right, what does this actually mean on the ground? How does this growth play out across different parts of the world? Let's maybe start with some of the more established players, North America, for instance. It's still a really significant contributor. Its market is projected to grow from, over $500 million in 2021 to over $900 million by 2033.
Big numbers.
Huge. And the United States holds the dominant share there. Its value nearly doubles over that time. Canada and Mexico are showing steady growth too, so it highlights that consistent need across the continent.
Yeah, those North American figures, they paint a picture of a mature market, definitely. But it's one that keeps innovating, right? Within its established maritime and aviation infrastructure. It's like a reliable engine, just consistently contributing, showing ongoing investment in advanced navigation.
Okay, let's pivot over to Europe. We see a somewhat similar pattern there. Stable growth. It was valued around $365 million in 2021, and the forecast takes it over $650 million by 2033.
Also quite strong.
Yeah. Key countries like the UK, Germany, and France especially. France has a notably strong CAGR, that growth rate. They're driving this. But what's really catching my eye in the data here? It's the rest of Europe segment.
Ah, yes. You're right to point that out. That's interesting. The rest of Europe, which is basically a mix of smaller, maybe more specialized markets, it actually shows a higher growth rate, a faster CAGR than the big European economies.
Really? Why do you think that is?
Well, it suggests there are pockets of really dynamic development happening, maybe in niche marine industries or specialized defense stuff, or even emerging coastal trade routes we don't always hear about.
Yeah.
That's driving demand across different parts of the continent, not just the big players.
Fascinating. Okay, now let's shift focus. Asia Pacific. This is where we see truly remarkable growth.
Yeah, the numbers here are impressive.
Its market revenue was already near $240 million in 2021. And it's set to pretty much double, hitting almost $476 million by 2033.
Wow.
That's a strong CAGR, over 6.1%. And when you look at specific countries, India, Singapore, their growth rates are particularly robust. India, for example, is projected to more than double its market value. That's an AGR close to 6.9%.
And what's really fascinating here, I think, is how these numbers just mirror those huge global trade shifts and the industrial development happening across Asia. You mentioned the rest of APAC segment in Europe.
Right.
Well, the rest of APAC here actually has the highest TAGR in the entire region, almost 8%.
Nearly 8%, wow.
Right. It signals a truly dynamic, rapidly expanding maritime presence across, many parts of Asia. Just think about the massive growth in container shipping there, all the new ports being built, the increasing naval activity. It all directly feeds this demand for sophisticated steering systems.
Okay, moving geographically again. South America. It shows consistent growth, too. Its market is expected to double as well, reaching over $171 million by 2033, driven mainly by key players like Brazil and Argentina.
Steady progress there.
And then the Middle East, it shows a slightly more moderate growth rate comparatively. Still, it's projected to reach nearly $80 million by 2033, with Saudi Arabia leading the charge.
Yeah, when you look at South America and the Middle East together, you see this pattern of consistent, though varied, expansion. The growth drivers are often quite specific to the region. Maybe it's increasing energy exports, driving tanker traffic, or strategic trade routes needing upgrades, or perhaps investments in naval capabilities, all needing modern navigation.
Okay, now, here's where it gets really interesting, I think. Africa.
Ah, yes, the fastest growth.
Exactly. This continent showed the fastest regional growth rate overall for steering compasses. It started smaller, sure, about $22.8 million in 2021, but it's projected to surge to over $61 million by 2033.
It's nearly triple.
Right. And the CAGR reflects that a really robust rate over 9.2%. Nigeria and South Africa are notable contributors here.
Indeed. And just like in APAC, the rest of Africa segment here is the real standout. It shows one of the most substantial growth rates globally. It goes from just under $11 million to over $30 million by 2033.
That's huge growth.
It's massive. The CAGR is over 9.6%. And if you connect that to the bigger picture, well, it points clearly to significant emerging global shipping lanes around Africa. Think about vast new infrastructure projects, developing economies really taking off.
Right.
This isn't just numbers growing. It's a reflection of fundamental economic shifts happening on a global scale,
Wow.
particularly impacting Africa.
What a compelling journey through those numbers. So to kind of tie this all together, our deep dive really shows that the global steering compasses market, it's far from static. It's expanding steadily, dynamically across every continent. And this growth isn't just, happening by itself. It's driven by powerful forces, continuous modernization in marine navigation, ongoing military upgrades, strategic expansion of commercial fleets all over the world.
Absolutely. And while those mature markets, North America, Europe, they continue to be stable, vital contributors, it's pretty clear that the dynamic regional hotspots like Asia-Pacific and, well, especially Africa, they're really positioned to fuel the biggest future gains. It vividly showcases the significant shifts in global economic activity and infrastructure development that are happening right now. And maybe this leaves you with an important question to think about. As this technology races ahead and our reliance on these complex integrated digital and satellite systems just keeps increasing, how is that going to reshape not just the future of navigation itself, but maybe the very fabric of global trade, connectivity, and even, international security in the decades ahead?
That is a powerful thought to leave you with, and it really highlights those unseen forces guiding our world, doesn't it? Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. When you think about global trade, over 80% travels by sea. But what keeps it all moving precisely? Often, it's tools we barely see.
Exactly. Unsung heroes, really.
Today, we're pulling back the curtain on one of those, the global steering compass. It sounds old school, maybe.
Not at all. It's actually at the heart of a pretty intense kind of silent transformation.
Affecting everything from, well, your morning coffee getting here to international security. So we're doing a deep dive into this world. What's driving the market? What are the challenges? And where are these essential instruments headed?
Yeah.
And to guide us, we've been digging into the Global Steering Compasses, Market Dynamics, and Future Trends report from Cognitive Market Research.
And what's really fascinating, I think, is that this isn't just static equipment we're talking about. The whole market is evolving quite profoundly. Understanding it is pretty crucial if you're interested in logistics, maritime safety, or even just how technology moves forward.
Okay, let's unpack this then. What are the core forces pushing this market? I mean, beyond the obvious fact that ships need to know where they're going, what's really fueling the demand?
Well, the big thing isn't just more ships, though that's part of it. It's the sheer volume of global maritime trade surging. Plus, you've got a major expansion happening in both naval fleets and commercial fleets worldwide.
Okay.
And then add strategic investments in ports, coastal security, especially in emerging economies. All this demands, navigation that's getting more and more reliable and accurate.
That makes sense from an economic perspective. But what about other pressures like regulations? Do international rules play a big part here?
Oh, absolutely. Regulations are a huge catalyst, a really powerful one.
How so?
Well, take the International Maritime Organization, the IMO. They have mandates, right? Specific rules about having approved steering compasses on vessels over certain sizes.
Oh, okay.
And then there's SOLAS. That's the Safety of Life at Sea Convention. It's fundamental. It basically enforces the use of standard magnetic and gyro compasses on commercial ships.
So ship owners have to comply.
Exactly. It forces fleet owners, especially somewhere like Europe or the Asia Pacific, where rules are getting tighter, to actually retrofit their older vessels. They need to meet these standards. It drives a lot of market activity, that retrofit need.
Right, so you've got economics and regulations pushing things forward. What about the compasses themselves, the technology? How do we get from, a simple magnetic needle to these complex systems on modern ships?
Yeah, it's been a huge leap, really. We've moved way beyond just basic magnets. Now you have sophisticated gyro compasses. These use rapidly spinning rotors, basically, to hold a really stable reference to true north.
Okay, gyros, what else?
Then you've got fluxate compasses, digital magnetic compasses. These use electronic sensors. They give a very accurate magnetic heading and overcome a lot of the old limitations.
And what does that mean in practice?
It means much better accuracy, greater stability, and importantly, they work seamlessly with things like GPS and autopilot systems. Some advanced digital ones even have self-calibration, real-time data integration, and they're much better at resisting magnetic interference.
So they're more versatile now.
Definitely. They're suitable for a whole range of vessels. Huge cargo ships, offshore energy platforms, yeah, even down to leisure boats and the really cutting-edge stuff like autonomous maritime vehicles.
You mentioned integration. It sounds like it's not just the compass anymore, but how it fits into the bigger picture on the bridge.
Exactly right. That's a key point. How do these individual bits become like the brain of the ship's navigation?
Yeah.
The answer is the widespread adoption of integrated bridge systems, or IBS.
IBS, right.
These systems merge the steering compass data with ECDIS, that's the electronic chart system, the digital map, essentially. And with radar, autopilot, GPS, everything talks to each other. This allows for real-time route planning, much better situational awareness, and they're absolutely critical for complex jobs like offshore drilling or navigating in really tricky places like the Arctic or Antarctic. Every piece of data matters there.
Okay, the tech sounds impressive, but I imagine it's not all smooth sailing, right?
Yeah.
What are the big challenges or restraints in this market?
Yeah, there are definitely hurdles. A major one is simply the cost. The initial installation, the ongoing maintenance for these advanced systems, especially the gyro-based ones, it's high. And that's a real financial challenge for, say, smaller shipping operators or fishing fleets. They often run on really tight margins.
Like I can imagine.
And then there's the logistics. If you need maintenance way out in some remote marine zone, that gets complex and expensive fast. You might need to fly in specialists' equipment.
Right. And what about the compasses themselves? Are they still prone to issues, even the newer ones?
They can be, yeah. I mean, basic magnetic compasses are always going to be susceptible to electromagnetic interference. From the ship's own structure, the engines, other machinery.
Okay.
That can cause deviation errors, which are obviously navigational risks. And even the digital types, while they're better, they aren't completely immune. You can still have calibration problems or system failures.
So backups are still crucial.
Absolutely. You need backup systems and you need regular checks to make sure everything's reliable and safe.
That brings up an interesting point. We have all this advanced tech, but you also mentioned GPS integration. Is there a downside to relying so heavily on satellite navigation?
It's a really critical concern, actually. We're seeing this trend, this increasing dependence on GPS and other satellite systems, GNSS as they're called. And unfortunately, it seems to have led some operators to maybe downplay the importance of basic manual compass skills.
Right, the traditional navigation.
Exactly. And this sort of overdependence could be really dangerous if those GNSS signals get disrupted.
How could that happen?
Well, they can be spoofed. so given false information or jam deliberately. These risks are much higher in conflict zones or even just very remote waters where signals might be weak or interfered with.
I see.
And the consequences, we're arguably seeing a decline in those traditional navigation skills, especially maybe on smaller boats that aren't under the strictest regulations. That leaves them vulnerable if the digital systems suddenly fail.
That's a really vital point about being prepared.
Ah,
Okay, let's shift gears a bit. Looking ahead, what's shaping the future of this market? What are the key trends we should be watching?
well, first off, that growth in integrated bridge systems we talked about, that's definitely going to continue. It's a dominant trend.
Okay.
But beyond that, we're seeing some really dynamic new market segments pop up.
Like what?
One is the recreational boating market. It's booming. Owners of leisure boats want compact, easy-to-use digital compasses, often ones that integrate GPS map overlays right onto the display. Makes things simpler for them.
Makes sense.
Then there's the whole area of autonomous marine vessels, USVs, unmanned surface vehicles. They need incredibly compact, really robust navigation tools that can handle high vibration and operate totally independently.
Right. No human backup right there.
Precisely. And thirdly, think about underwater drones, coastal surveillance systems. The demand there is pushing manufacturers to create really lightweight, super precise compass modules, ones that can work with AI systems, often in really tough underwater conditions.
Fascinating how the tech is adapting. You mentioned retrofitting earlier, too. Is that a big part of the future picture?
Oh, it's a huge part, especially in regions like the Asia Pacific.
Why there specifically?
Well, a large chunk of the fleet there consists of older cargo ships and fishing vessels. So instead of buying brand new, expensive ships, many operators find it makes more sense economically to just upgrade the navigation systems on their existing vessels.
Ah, the retrofit boom.
Exactly. So there's strong demand for compasses designed for retrofitting maybe modular designs, wireless connectivity options, smart diagnostics to make installation and maintenance easier. And governments are often encouraging this too, sometimes with incentives, because it boosts overall maritime safety and efficiency. So that's pushing the market as well.
Okay, so with all this activity, all this evolution, who are the main players? Who are the big companies leading the way in the steering compass market?
Yeah, the competitive landscape is pretty active, but it is dominated by several key players. You'll hear names like Scan Steering, KVH, MI Simulators, Raytheon Anschutz,
Okay.
also Tokyo Keiki, and Sperry Marine. These are really the leaders.
And what are they up to? What defines their strategy?
Well, it's a mix of things. Continuous innovation is key, launching new products, pushing the technology. They're also forming strategic partnerships to broaden their reach and expanding geographically to strengthen their market position. Their product ranges usually cover both the traditional mechanical compasses and the newer digital solutions, tailoring them for all sorts of different vessel types.
Right.
And increasingly, you see them investing in sustainability aspects and overall technological modernization. They need to meet demands for efficiency, but also environmental compliance.
Wow, what an incredible journey we've covered today. From, the basic need for direction to these really complex tech and market forces. It's clear these compasses, these often unseen heroes, are evolving incredibly fast and still quietly guiding pretty much all of global commerce.
Indeed, it really underscores their importance. And, as this technology keeps advancing, as automation becomes more and more common in navigation, it does raise a pretty important question, I think.
Yeah.
It's about balance. How do we make sure that the fundamental human skill navigating manually with a compass stays sharp and available, especially for those times when the sophisticated digital systems might fail or get compromised somehow? What happens when the satellites do go dark or the AI faces something totally unexpected it wasn't programmed for? That reliance and the skill to override it, that's something to think about.